Welcome to another 7-minute 7-point series Deck Tech. I'm Sarv McClinton from Adelaide Eternal, and I'm bringing you Sarv's Value Train, also known as Kess Pile. So this is a Grixis control list that was brewed by the Adelaide Eternal team to take down the Adelaide Eternal Highlander challenge in November. And since the three people that were piloting Sarv's Value Train ended up all top 8ing, we had an overwhelming request from the community to do a Deck Tech on this list. So bringing it to you now, let's talk about the interactions that Kess has to make this deck strong. So first of all, we have a massive removal package. Now, depending on what your meta is, this can all vary according to the meta, but obviously you need to have essentials in there like Dreadbore to deal with Planeswalkers, Diabolic Edict to deal with things like True Name Nemesis that can't be targeted, and also things like Fatal Push and not Lightning Bolt, which are extremely efficient. Following up from this, you have things like Baleful Strix, which are really good at stunting the board development of an aggro player. And Toxic Deluge, also another answer to True Name Nemesis and aggro. Then we have Kolaghan's Command, which allows you to return a very small package of creatures from the graveyard, all of which generate value. And Fiery Confluence, which usually hits a Skull Clamp or some such, but most of the time is going to do 6 to the face in control mirrors. So that's your removal package. Now, when you couple this powerful removal package with the recursion of Kess, it basically says that mid-range and aggro are one of your best matchups. It's really difficult for an aggro player to develop their board without getting blown out by a Fiery Confluence, 3 damage to everything, or a Toxic Deluge, wrathing the board, or Fire and Ice doing the fire mode and killing 2 mana dorks, for example. And then by the time they start setting up again, you Snapcaster, Kess, or Torrential Gear Hulk back one of these extremely powerful removal spells, and they're basically out of the game. The only way that they can really deal with you as an aggro player is to press your life total quickly and then burn your face. But you have a massive counter suite here. So now let's talk about how you deal with the aggro matchups. So in the control mirrors, you have these powerhouses like Kess, but also you have things like Jason Mind Sculptor and Ashiok as these threats that basically win the game by themselves. So what you do is you sit back on your counter spells, you develop your board state, and with a whole whopping 23 mana sources, 2 of which are man lands, you're able to develop your board in the early game. And if you are going to miss a land drop, you use one of your little cantrip selections from Preordain, Ponder, Brainstorm, as well as cycling Censor and cycling Miscalculation. So make sure that you hit your land drops every single turn, and then by the time you get to turn 7 or 8, when there's someone needs to pull the trigger, what you want to do is be in such an advantageous position that if your opponent does end up trying to commit a threat to the board, say their own Jace the Mind Sculptor, you can fight a counter war on their turn, make them tap out so that they resolve their threat, then go to your turn and use a Haymaker. So answering their Jace with a Dreadbore, or more likely, just playing that sandbagged threat that you had. You know, play that Ashiok or play that Kess, generate value off the Kess, and suddenly their Jason Mind Sculptor doesn't look really that great at all when you're Kess flashing back Bolt to target Jace, Kess flashing back Dreadbore, and so on and so forth, or just Kess for sheer value. Another sheer value card that you can break the control mirrors up with is Torrential Gear Hulk. Now, there's often a time where you will you'll never be the first person to fight your counter war, because you know that your haymakers when you untap are huge. So when they have to commit to the board, you fight a counter war, end your counter war, or have somewhere within your counter war a Mystic Confluence, which will, you know, do a counter spell and draw 2 cards, or some such, or counter and bounce that creature that they ended up playing and draw a card. And then when you untap on your turn, you can main phase commit your Torrential Gear Hulk, flashback Mystic Confluence to draw 3 cards, and you're so far ahead it's not funny. Another one to do is to throw Dig Through Time in there on the stack somewhere, or at the end of the turn after you've fought that counter war, you have 2 mana open, throw out your Dig Through Time. If they end up managing to counter it, or, you know, disadvantageously counter it with a Force of Will, then you untap and Gear Hulk back to the Dig Through Time, or Snapcaster back to Dig Through Time, or Kess Kess Dissident Mage back the dig through time. It's really, really insane. There have been many situations where you finish your your control mirror with a Fiery Confluence then hold your mana open. On their turn, they don't do anything. You lightning bolt their face, you untap, you play Kess, you confluence them for 6 again, or you untap, play Kess, bolt them, pass the turn, counter something, go back to your turn, swing with Kess for 3, and with all your untapped mana, 6 them in the face. This is the burn package is really, really good in this, even though you want to take out some of your removal spells when you're against control. You always leave in Fiery Confluence, or you always leave in Lightning Bolt, but oftentimes you can leave in Fiery Confluence depending on what you've got to take out, just because 6 to the face is huge. Now, I've separated these into obviously a counter package, which you saw, the removal package, which you saw, the card draw or card selection, which you saw as well, but this is the wild card selection. So these are all multitaskers. So Snapcaster Mage does basically any of these 3 things: removal, draw, counter. Cryptic Command often bounces a man land and does something else like counter or draw. Or tap teams when your opponent has Thrun or True Name Nemesis. And Mystic Confluence is super versatile. Dack Fayden as well is either card filtering in this package, or it's removal when you grab a Skull Clamp. So let's have a quick look at the sideboard. So the sideboard is divided into 3 sections here. This is your anti-creature selection. If you're against the any creature deck, basically these 2 come in. They're amazing. But Perish is there for the green ramp decks, elves. But if you want, this can also be tendrils. There's a card that basically is the same mana cost, and it does -2/-2 to all creatures and exiles them as well, which is really, really still good against Voice of Resurgence and Strangleroot Geist and True Name Nemesis. I can't remember the name, but it's a tendril something. And if you're against a red deck, then Hydroblast there counters the important red cards. This is your anti-control package. Nothing much to be said here. What you want to do is side out clunky cards like Cryptic Command and bring in 1 mana answers, and it's just so much better in your control matchup fighting a counter war over one big threat that you can land. Last of all, you've got your anti-graveyard hate. Leyline of the Void, really, really powerful in the meta at the moment. Even if you don't have it in your opening hand, I've cast this many a time on 4 and it's still really good, and against your built from scrap. So if you like the deck, sleeve it up, have a go. Sarv's Value Train and Kess Pile, whatever you want to call it, is a really, really good deck if you like value and control. So being able to play the mid-range game with your value plan and the control game. Sleeve it up, enjoy it, tell us what you think, comment in the sections below. Thanks for watching, guys.